Riley, Greater Manchester Police. Home Secretary, you'll remember in November 2010 you presented me with Community Police Officer of the Year award. I say that at conference, forgive me, just to show that I do know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I had worked in inner city Manchester for 15 years. I felt passionate about what I was doing. In 2012, I had to leave. I couldn't take it anymore because the changes that have been imposed have caused community policing to collapse. That's the reality, ma'am. Intelligence has dried up. There aren't local officers. They don't know what's happening. They're all reactive. There's no proactive policing locally. That is the reality, ma'am. And Mark Rowley just mentioned neighbourhood policing was critical to dealing with terrorism. We run the risk here of letting communities down, putting officers at risk and ultimately risking national security. I'd ask you to seriously reconsider the budget and the level of cuts over the next 5 years.
This weekend, the Federation warned that spending reductions mean that we'll be forced to adopt a paramilitary style of policing in Britain. Today, you've said that neighbourhood police officers are an endangered species. I have to tell you that this kind of scaremongering does nobody any good. It doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve the officers you represent, and it doesn't serve the public.
Services in crisis as a result of the cuts. They're being dragged from pillar to post. We hear talk of extra police officers on the street. They're not extra. They're officers that have had their rare leave days cancelled. They've had their 12-hour shifts that are now done routinely extended to 16 hours. They're being drawn from other areas. The officers we see behind us are from Kingston, from Hounslow and Hillingdon. They're not extra officers at all. They're from other duties and they're being burned out.
But more armed police officers on the streets than ever before, we're told?
No.
Armed police officers on the streets than ever before?
No, they're not. Basically, people that are alleging that are lying.
So the government are lying?
Yes.
The Defence Secretary's lying when he says that?
Yes, they funded bringing us back to the number of armed officers we had in 2010 by 2020. And they've got to address a number of issues in order to get there.
The Prime Minister was previously, of course, Home Secretary for 6 years. She's saying that we need to now change the way that we are approaching terrorism here in the United Kingdom. What sort of advice, what sort of support do you think she needs to offer the police service?
I heard her speech and she raised 4 things that needed to change. She missed the most obvious, urgent one, which is to deal with the cuts to ordinary policing. Yes, all those other things that she said, long-term impacts and all the rest of it, yes, they're all valid. But what needs to be done, and it needs to be done immediately, is reverse and stop and reverse the cuts to ordinary policing. They're needed in intelligence gathering from communities. They're needed in monitoring those 23,000 very low-level people that are, inverted commas, known to the police and security services in their communities.
And just to clarify, you say that the government is lying about the number of armed police officers that are on the streets of the United Kingdom.
Yes, in 2010 we had 1,000 plus more. They've got a plan in place and they've said they've funded, not totally, but they've part funded, bringing that up again by 2020. We are not there yet. We saw a brilliant response in London here last night. We saw it in Westminster a month or so ago. We saw it in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. If this had happened anywhere else, you would not be seeing that response. It is threadbare elsewhere in the country.